A widow with 2 children saw that a wealthy man had thrown a luxurious rug into the garbage dump. She quickly decided to take it and unroll it. As soon as she opened it, her entire body trembled. The afternoon was slowly fading away at the garbage dump, where a woman was rummaging for something edible to take home. Olivia Martin was desperately searching for something to feed her children. Scarlett and Jackson were playing at a safe distance, too innocent to realize their mother's desperation at not being able to provide them with a simple meal. Olivia, a woman with strong and determined features, carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. Widowed at 38, her life had become a daily series of challenges after the loss of her husband. "Mama, I'm hungry," complained Scarlett, her youngest daughter, tugging gently at her mother's skirt. Olivia smiled sadly at her, assuring her that they would find something to eat soon, though she wasn't sure herself. As she sifted through a more distant pile of rubbish, Olivia felt her fingers touch something surprisingly soft. Pulling at the object, she discovered a luxurious rug, incredibly out of place in this environment. Her heart raced at the thought that such a piece might be worth some money. But what she found next took her breath away. Hidden in the folds of the rug was a thick envelope full of banknotes. "That's a lot of money," she muttered to herself, instinctively looking around. The decision of what to do with this discovery weighed on her like a stone. "What is it?" Jackson approached curiously, seeing his mother's worried expression. Olivia quickly hid the envelope. "Nothing, dear. Just an old rug," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Let's take it home. It might come in handy." As they prepared to leave the dump, Olivia noticed a distant figure watching them. The silhouette, shrouded in the falling twilight, made it difficult to make out details. The presence of the observer made her heart race, mixing fear with the adrenaline of discovery. "Mama, who is that person watching us?" Scarlett asked, her voice low and tinged with fear. Olivia grabbed her daughter's hand. "I don't know, dear, but let's go home now," she said, quickening her pace with the children at her side. "Should we tell anyone about what we found?" Jackson asked about the expensive rug his mother was carrying, his eyes fixed on her, trying to read her expression. "We'll decide that at home," Olivia replied, her mind racing with the implications of what the discovery might mean. "For now, we must keep this between us." They hurried away, the sound of their quickened footsteps melding with the murmur of the falling night. The figure watching them stood still. When Olivia looked back one last time, it was gone. The uncertainty of the sight made her uneasy, but the need to protect her children and find a possible solution to their financial difficulties drove her forward. After discovering the envelope of money, Olivia locked the fragile door of her cabin with a growing sense of unease. That night, Scarlett and Jackson watched their mother with sad eyes, still remembering the hunger they had expressed earlier. Before deciding on their next move, Olivia improvised a simple meal with some vegetables she had managed to salvage earlier, soothing her children's rumbling stomachs as they ate. But the weight of what she had found did not ease her nervousness. She knew she needed advice, counsel, and help. But without a phone at home, her only option was to seek help in person. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" Scarlett asked innocently as she nibbled at a spoonful of food. Olivia smiled at her, even though her heart was tight with worry. "We will, dear. We just have to be careful," she replied determinedly, trying to hide her fear. She wrapped the envelope in an old cloth and told her children she would be back soon. Olivia walked through the poorly lit streets of the neighborhood to the small local police station, where she knew she could find someone she could trust. When she arrived, she found Officer Ethan Johnson patrolling nearby. "Ethan, I need your help," Olivia said as she approached him with the hidden envelope. "I found this today, and I'm afraid it might bring trouble." Ethan looked at the package seriously. "Let's see what you found," he said, leading her into the station where they could talk more privately. Olivia explained the situation as Ethan examined the money. "You did well to bring this here, Olivia. This seems too large an amount to be involved in nothing." According to the serial numbers on the bills, Ethan had already begun to fill out a report, leaving the money in his care. Olivia felt a momentary relief. He promised to keep everything confidential until more information was discovered. Arriving at the entrance to her home, Olivia's heart was pounding, still unsure if she had made the right choice. As she walked through her simple porch, she noticed a folded note on the ground. Olivia picked it up and read the handwritten message. "Stay out of this. Forget the money." Her blood ran cold. She looked around but saw no one holding the note. Olivia closed the door to the house. Now aware that the situation was more dangerous than she had imagined, the first thing she did was hug her children and promise herself that she would do whatever it took to protect them, even if it meant facing unknown threats in the future. In the days that followed, the tension around Olivia grew. The cabin's routine remained the same on the outside, but on the inside, everything seemed different. She kept a constant watch, feeling eyes in every shadow. Neighbors, once friendly, now cast curious glances and whispered to each other as she passed. Olivia, who was preparing a modest breakfast with the money she'd made from selling some things she'd found in the trash, thought deeply before answering her son. Sometimes people get nervous or scared when they don't understand something, dear. They don't know what happened, but they know that something happened. Scarlett overheard the conversation and looked at her mother with her big, worried eyes. Do they think we've done something wrong? As the day wore on, the feeling of being watched did not diminish. Olivia noticed a black car she did not recognize driving slowly down the dirt road where she lived. The first time it passed, she thought it was a coincidence. The second time, her heart began to beat faster. The third time, it stopped briefly in front of her cabin before moving on. It was almost midnight when the sound of an engine broke the silence of the night and made her stand up abruptly. Peering through the tattered curtain, she saw the same black car parked across the street. A hooded figure got out and began to walk towards her house. Olivia quickly backed away, her heart pounding erratically. "This can't be a coincidence," she muttered to herself, feeling a mixture of fear and anger. She ran to her children's room. She gently woke them up. "We need to go to the back of the house," she whispered, leading them to a hidden place in the house where she kept some tools and old boxes. "Mommy, what's going on?" asked Jackson, his voice trembling in the dark. "Stay quiet," Olivia instructed, her voice firm even though her heart was in turmoil. The minutes dragged on like hours as they waited in the dark. Olivia listened to every sound outside, imagining if the figure would decide to enter. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the sound of the engine was heard again. Olivia breathed a sigh of relief, but she knew that the night had been more of a warning than an end to their troubles. "Let's go back to bed," she said, trying to bring some normalcy back to her children's night. As she tucked the children back into bed, Olivia knew that things were far from normal. The visit that night was a clear reminder that danger was still very close, perhaps more so than ever. The next morning, after the night's incident, Olivia had barely slept. As the sun began to light the dusty horizon, she was already in the kitchen making coffee, her mind still clouded by fear and uncertainty. Scarlett and Jackson woke to the smell of coffee and joined her, feeling the tension that still hung in the air. "Mommy, are you okay?" asked Jackson, noticing the deep circles under Olivia's eyes. She forced a smile as she served the coffee. "Yes, dear, just a little tired," she lied, trying to shield the children from her own worries. Olivia's dream was to get a good job so her children could eat with dignity, but few would hire a simple woman like her, especially when she didn't have the money to buy decent clothes for interviews. She made do with what little she had. After breakfast, there was a knock at the door. Olivia felt her heart leap. Cautiously, she approached and opened the door. There stood Ethan, the police officer, with a serious expression. "Olivia, we need to talk," he said as he entered. "Have there been any developments regarding the money I found?" She led him to the small kitchen table. Ethan looked at her seriously before continuing. We have discovered that the money is directly linked to a large financial fraud network. More worryingly, we have discovered how they knew you found the money." Olivia swallowed hard, feeling a knot form in her throat. "How do they know?" she asked, fearing the answer. "A man was watching the dump while you found the carpet. A distant camera caught him leaving the carpet, and shortly after, you found the object." Olivia's head spun. Alexander Lopez was well known in the city, a businessman with a reputation as both a philanthropist and someone not to be crossed. Some said he was involved with the mob. Olivia had seen the man before in the neighborhood, accompanied by some dangerous men. "What does he want from me?" Olivia asked, her voice trembling slightly. "He wants to make sure you don't cooperate with the police. He has a lot to lose if this investigation continues," Ethan explained, looking directly into her eyes. As Ethan left, a noise outside caught Olivia's attention. She looked through the window and saw a car parked. It wasn't the black car from before, but a more expensive and imposing vehicle. Alexander Lopez himself was inside, accompanied by two large men who seemed to be there to ensure the mobster's safety. This time, Olivia could not ignore it. There was no time to escape, so she opened the door, trembling with fear. "Olivia, dear, I am Alexander Lopez. I believe you have heard my name in this town. We are all worried about you," Alexander began, his voice as soft as honey. "We heard about your find and are very impressed with your honesty," he said ironically. It was clear from his tone that he hated Olivia for giving the money to the police, as it would lead them to him. Despite the fear she felt, Olivia knew she couldn't show anything that could be used against her. "What do you want from me?" Alexander focused on Olivia. "I just want to make sure there's no misunderstanding. It would be a shame if your cooperation with the police hurt the community. We both know that sometimes it's better to leave things alone, don't we? And pretend we didn't find anything." Alexander's look was a clear warning, and Olivia felt a shiver run down her spine. He was there not only to intimidate her, but to do so in public, to show that he did not fear the consequences of his actions. Even though Olivia had reported him to the police, he had come to her house. By now, all the neighbors must have seen Alexander's car outside her door. "I'll think about what you said," Olivia managed to say, her voice firmer than she felt. Alexander smiled again, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Great, that's all I ask." He turned and motioned for his bodyguards to follow him as he walked back to his car. "I'll handle this," she said, but the words felt more like a question than a statement as she closed the door. In the days following Alexander Lopez's visit, Olivia felt like she was living under a magnifying glass. The neighbors' stares grew heavier, whispers more frequent, and the atmosphere around her house more oppressive. "Mom, people are acting weird again," Jackson commented as they returned from a quick trip to the local market. Olivia held his hand and squeezed it lightly. "We'll be fine. We just have to be strong," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. One day, after returning home, Olivia noticed something strange on the front door. A message was scrawled in red ink, the letters carelessly forming, "Stop talking or pay the price." Olivia's heart raced. She looked around for someone who might have written the message, but the streets were eerily quiet. "They want me to drop the report, probably claiming I was mistaken and the money was theirs," Olivia thought to herself. "Mama, what does that mean?" Scarlett asked, her voice trembling with fear. Olivia quickly ushered her inside, locking the door behind her. "Nothing, dear. It's just someone trying to scare us," she said, trying to appear calm. But her heart was pounding like a drum in her chest. She moved away from the doorway. She moved away from the door and went to the public phone near her house, dialing Ethan's number with shaking hands, hoping he would answer quickly. "Ethan, it's Olivia. Someone wrote a threat on my door. I'm really scared now," she confessed. "I'm on my way," Ethan replied without hesitation. "Don't leave the house and keep the doors and windows locked while you wait for me." Olivia gathered the children in the living room and tried to distract them with games, but her mind was elsewhere, jumping at every sound. Every shadow that passed by the window heightened her fear with each passing minute. Ethan arrived within minutes, knocking urgently on the door. Olivia ran to open it, relieved to see his face. "Let me see the message," Ethan said as he walked past her to examine the door. His face hardened as he saw the threatening words. "This is getting serious, Olivia. I will have to report this and perhaps request police surveillance around here." "Will that help?" Olivia asked, doubt clear in her voice. "We will do all we can," Ethan assured her, though his voice carried a note of uncertainty. After Ethan left, Olivia sat on the sofa, watching Scarlett and Jackson play. She felt torn between telling them the whole truth about the danger they were in and maintaining a facade of normalcy to protect their innocence. The next rainy morning, Olivia heard a noise outside and opened the door to her house. On the floor at the entrance was a thick envelope with no address, just Olivia's name on the front. Before picking up the envelope and bringing it inside, the anonymous handwriting and lack of a return address already suggested that the contents would be disturbing. "Mom, did someone knock on the door?" asked Jackson, watching her from the living room. "No, honey, it must have just been a wrong delivery, I think," Olivia lied, trying to keep her voice steady. As she made her way to the kitchen to open the envelope, she privately hated lying to her son, but it was necessary to protect him. The documents detailed a network of corruption not only linked to Alexander Lopez, but intertwined with several prominent public figures in the city. There were records of payments, overpriced contracts, and communications hinting at a series of illegal activities. Someone had left this to help her with the report. "It's much worse than I imagined," Olivia whispered to herself, feeling the weight of the truth in her hands. Determined to understand the situation better, Olivia spent the entire morning analyzing the documents, absorbing every detail and implication. The connections went beyond what she could have imagined, reaching the highest spheres of local power. In the afternoon, while Scarlett and Jackson played in the courtyard, Olivia sat in a chair and considered her next steps. "Olivia Martin," a distorted voice asked from the other end of the line. "Yes, it's me," she replied cautiously, her voice betraying her unease. "You don't know me, but I know what you are receiving today. It is vital that you understand the seriousness of the information I have sent you. Trust no one," the voice warned. Before Olivia could ask more, the call disconnected. She stood there, still holding the phone. The warning echoed in her mind as she tried to process the voice's words. Returning home, she locked the documents in a drawer before joining the children. Watching Scarlett and Jackson play, the gravity of her situation weighed even more heavily on her. Protecting them was her priority, but how far could she go without compromising their safety? "Mommy, I'm going to Javier's house to play," Jackson called from the foyer, breaking Olivia's chain of thoughts. "Wait, Jackson, I'll go with you," Olivia started to say, but he was gone before she could finish the sentence. Olivia's heart raced as she ran to the door and called out to him, but Jackson was already out of sight. Fear consumed her as she considered all the possible consequences of her decision to confront Alexander Lopez. Hours passed, and Jackson did not return. As night fell, Olivia began searching the neighborhood, taking Scarlett with her. She asked everyone if they had seen her son, but no one knew his whereabouts. "Mommy, where's Jackson?" "He's going to miss dinner," Scarlett asked, worry forming in her small eyes. Olivia tried to remain calm, though the fear was evident in her voice. "He must be close. He'll be back soon," she said, trying to convince both herself and her daughter. Finally, as darkness enveloped the neighborhood, and there was still no sign of Jackson, panic overtook Olivia. Her hands shaking, she dialed Ethan's number again. "Ethan, it's Olivia. My son, Jackson. He's missing. He went to a friend's house, and it's been hours," she stammered, her voice cracking with fear. "Olivia, we will find him," Ethan assured her firmly. Olivia hung up the phone, her heart pounding erratically. The thought that Jackson's disappearance might be connected to her decision to fight corruption filled her with indescribable terror. She wondered if her pursuit of justice had gone too far. The night dragged on slowly, and every minute without news of Jackson felt like an eternity. Olivia paced the living room, glancing out the window frequently, hoping to see her son running home. Scarlett, sensing the tension, played quietly in the corner, occasionally casting worried glances at her mother. "I won't let anyone hurt Jackson," she thought, her resolve hardening. Later, as Alexander Lopez appeared at her door, Olivia's fear turned to fury. "Where is my son?" she demanded as soon as he was close enough to hear her. "Your son, dear? You must be out of your mind," he replied sarcastically. "I've come to propose a deal. If you do anything to Jackson," she began, but Alexander interrupted her. "I can actually do something to your son," he said coldly, "so I need you to cooperate. I'll give you a large sum of money to ensure your silence about everything you've discovered. You must turn over everything you know. That way, you'll never hear my name again, and your family will be safe," he continued. Olivia knew he was lying. She would never be safe after returning Alexander's money and reporting him. "You have until tomorrow to decide. Otherwise, you'll suffer the consequences," he finished, turning his back on Olivia. She knew he wasn't lying or exaggerating. Olivia knew he was neither lying nor exaggerating. Her heart was pounding in her chest, and her concern for her son was growing. Olivia would not risk Jackson's life, but she knew that making a deal with Alexander would be futile. Olivia was still worried when she heard police sirens. She ran to the door, fearing something had happened. It was Ethan, getting out of a police car. His serious expression brought a momentary smile to her face. "He's okay," Ethan said quickly as Olivia opened the door. He was playing in a nearby park with his friend and lost track of time. "Thank you, Ethan. Thank you for everything," Olivia said, her voice trembling with relief. "He's coming." Ethan pointed to the inside of the car, where Jackson was getting out, hesitant and obviously embarrassed. Jackson and a friend had gone to play outside the house and had lost track of time, which was why Olivia hadn't found him when she had gone there. Although Olivia had been concerned about the threats, afraid they had done something to her son, the situation turned out to be a simple misunderstanding. Jackson was safe and had not been the target of any malicious acts involving his mother and the corruption in the city. After a tight hug and many tears, Olivia prepared to thank Ethan again, but he interrupted her with a serious gesture. "We need to talk," Ethan said. Inside, Olivia told Ethan about Alexander's visit and his proposal, but Ethan was not convinced. "You and I both know that making a deal with Alexander guarantees nothing in the long run. It's just a purchase of silence, isn't it?" "Safety," Ethan replied. Olivia thought deeply, every part of her struggling with the moral dilemma before her. "I can't accept it, not after everything I've seen and know. It would be the same as being an accomplice, but I fear for my children's lives." Ethan nodded, respecting her decision. "I expected you to say that. I'll keep an eye on Jackson and Scarlett. I'll let all the officers know to keep them safe." After Ethan left, Olivia felt a strange peace mixed with fear. She was grateful that Jackson was safe and, at the same time, afraid that something might still happen. Later, Olivia went to the front of the house to get some fresh air, but her sense of dread increased when she saw the front door. A pane of glass was shattered. She remembered locking it as she went to the bedroom. On the worn table on her porch was an envelope with several photographs of her and her children, along with a message scrawled in red. "Think carefully about your choices." Trembling, Olivia gathered the photographs. She realized that her decision to fight had only intensified the dangerous game she was involved in. She knew now that every step forward would be more dangerous, but backing down was not an option. The challenge was just beginning. The next day, 24 hours after Alexander's threat, nearing the deadline he had set, the situation worsened. Olivia received a call on the pay phone from Ethan's police partner. The urgency in his voice was unmistakable. "Olivia, I need you to come to the hospital now." "What? What happened?" "Ethan was found in the park this morning, badly injured. He's in critical condition, intubated." He couldn't speak, but he asked me to tell you something right away, Marco said. His voice carried a weight that made Olivia's heart sink. Without wasting a second, Olivia arranged for someone to watch the children and ran to the hospital. The white and sterile corridors of the hospital seemed to go on forever as she made her way to the intensive care unit where Ethan had been admitted. When she entered the room, Olivia was confronted by the sight of Ethan lying motionless in the hospital bed, surrounded by tubes and machines beeping intermittently. Tears flooded her eyes as she saw her friend and ally in that state. Marco, Ethan's police partner, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. He was attacked from behind, with no chance to defend himself. It seems they knew exactly when he would be alone, Marco explained, his barely contained anger evident in his voice. Olivia felt a mixture of pain and anger. Why would they do this to him? They want to intimidate you, Olivia. They want you to stop, Marco said directly, his eyes locked with hers. The reality of those words hit Olivia like a blow. The attack on Ethan was not just a message to him. It was meant for her. As she sat beside Ethan's bed, holding his cold hand, Olivia considered what to do. With every moment she spent beside her injured friend, her resolve hardened. They want me to stop and drop the report, she muttered to herself. But I can't, not now. Returning home that night, Olivia felt the weight of her decision. She knew that continuing to fight could have even worse consequences, but the alternative, silence, now seemed impossible. As she opened the door to her house, a sense of desolation washed over her. It was clear that her fight had cost her a lot, and the price could continue to rise. My God, please protect me. I just wanted to return the money and do the right thing, she prayed, scared. Olivia had barely closed the door behind her when she noticed something strange. An envelope carelessly tossed on the floor. Trembling, Olivia picked up the envelope and tore it open with hesitant hands. Inside, she found a single sheet of paper with a message written in bold letters. This is your last warning. Olivia held the paper with trembling hands, the reality of her situation more palpable than ever. With every decision she made, every step she took, the shadow of danger lengthened, touching everything and everyone she loved. Marked by a palpable tension that seemed to envelop Olivia's home like a thick fog. Each day she tightened the security of her home, adding more wood to block the door and installing new barricades on the windows. Life in her home became a series of carefully orchestrated routines to ensure everyone's safety. One overcast afternoon, while Olivia was organizing documents, she received an unexpected phone call that broke the anxious monotony. It was Marco, Ethan's partner, with news that stopped her heart for a moment. Olivia felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. I'm glad Ethan's better, Marco, but is it safe? We're taking every precaution. Ethan's under police protection, and we're planning the hearing to keep everything secret until the last possible moment, Marco explained, his voice filled with determination. In the days leading up to the testimony, Olivia felt torn between the hope that they could finally uncover the truth and the lingering fear of further reprisals. She visited Ethan at the safe house where he was being held and found him remarkably recovered, but still scarred by the events that nearly cost him his life. Olivia, we can't let him get away with this. He had me attacked, and he's threatening you. I'm sure he'll do the same to others. This is bigger than me, bigger than us, Ethan said, his conviction strengthening Olivia's resolve. That evening, Olivia returned home. On the eve of the scheduled testimony, she prepared a meal for her children with what little she had in the cupboards, trying to conceal the fear pulsing beneath her calm exterior. After tucking Scarlett and Jackson into bed, she allowed herself a few moments of quiet, looking up at the starry sky, seeking some peace before the storm she knew was coming. It was almost midnight when the phone rang, breaking the silence of the night with its urgent tone. Olivia answered, her heart pounding. Olivia, it's me, Ethan. Someone is trying to break in where I'm hiding. I can hear noises outside. It seems they know where I am. Try to stay in a safe place. They may come to you too. Olivia's blood ran cold. I'm calling Marco, she said. Ethan hung up the phone. Olivia felt every heartbeat like a hammer in her consciousness. She knew the next few hours would be crucial. As she called Marco to inform him of the situation, a feeling of desperation gripped her. Ethan had decided to face the danger, to tell the truth, and she would stand by him no matter what. The hours that followed Ethan's call were unbearably tense. Olivia could barely keep still as she paced the house, waiting for news. Finally, the sun began to brighten the sky, bringing with it the day of the trial that could change everything. As she arrived at the courthouse, Olivia felt everyone's eyes on her. Marco informed her that Ethan was safe and that the police had responded in time to prevent the worst from happening. With that small relief, Olivia prepared to enter the courtroom, knowing that everything was now critical. Ethan was already in the courtroom, looking pale and somewhat fragile, but his determination was palpable. They exchanged a look of complicity and strength before taking their seats. The trial began with the prosecutor outlining the web of corruption, citing evidence, and calling witnesses. Ethan was one of the key witnesses, and his testimony was both an account of the corruption and an act of defiance. Olivia watched every face in the courtroom, trying to read their reactions. Alexander Lopez was there, impeccably dressed, his posture calm, but his eyes hard and cold. It was Olivia's turn to testify. She walked forward with firm steps, despite the fear she felt. With every word she spoke, she exposed not only Alexander's crimes, but her own vulnerability. During a break, as Olivia returned to her seat, a man she recognized as one of Alexander's closest associates discreetly approached her. He handed her a note. Olivia took it with shaking hands and unfolded it under the table, reading the hastily written words. "This won't end here. Be careful." Olivia's blood ran cold. She looked around to see if anyone else had noticed the exchange, but everyone was busy with their own conversations and preparations for the next session. As the trial resumed, Olivia felt every word of the threat burn in her mind. She tried to concentrate on the proceedings, on the lawyer's questions, on the witnesses' answers, but a part of her was always alert, always waiting for the next blow. "And humanity," Olivia declared, her voice echoing through the attentive silence of the courtroom. "I chose not to remain silent because silence makes us complicit. I chose to fight not for myself, but for all those who have no voice against this mafia." At the end of her testimony, a respectful silence hung in the air, broken only by the judge calling the next witness. Olivia returned to her seat, feeling the weight of her words settle on everyone's shoulders. As the court finally adjourned for the day, Olivia stood, exhausted but resilient. Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. At the front were supporters of Alexander Lopez, their faces contorted with anger and disdain. They must have been threatened to be there, holding signs, shouting threatening words, and blocking Olivia's exit. The hatred in their eyes was obvious and frightening. Olivia paused, her heart pounding erratically. Marco put a hand on her shoulder and whispered, "We're not alone in this." Looking around, she saw some people from the courtroom, touched by her testimony, begin to join her. Together, they formed a human shield as they walked toward the exit, facing the shouts and hostile looks. Back at the sanctuary of her home after the confrontation at the courthouse, Olivia was relieved to see Scarlett and Jackson playing quietly on the living room floor. Their innocent laughter was a sharp contrast to the gravity Olivia felt after the testimony. She joined them on the floor, trying to find comfort in the normalcy of motherhood, but her mind was restless. "What if I've gone too far?" she wondered. As she tucked them into bed, Olivia kissed their foreheads, trying to convey a sense of calm she didn't feel. "Good night, my dears. Everything will be all right," she murmured, more as a promise to herself than a guarantee to them. After making sure they were asleep, Olivia sat down at the table in the dim light and allowed herself a moment of despair. The struggle seemed endless, and for a moment, she considered the possibility of giving up. Then the public phone on the street rang, breaking the silence of the night. "You changed our city, Olivia. You changed our lives," Ethan said, raising his glass in a toast. Olivia smiled and looked at her children, who had joined them. "We changed it, all of us. And we will continue to change it, always for the better." As night fell over the city, once trembling under the weight of corruption, now illuminated by the promise of justice and renewal, Olivia felt truly at peace. It wasn't just because she had won the battle, but because she knew that her fight would inspire others to not fear the darkness, to stand up and speak out, no matter how powerful the forces against them. In that truth, Olivia found not only peace, but a purpose that would define the rest of her days. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to continue bringing you exciting stories almost every day. Don't miss the next surprising story coming to your screen. We are grateful to have you here with us. You can now click on the links appearing on the screen. We have a special selection just for you, filled with valuable stories and guaranteed entertainment. See you there.